if it smells funny, it probably is, right? When the seller starts saying, I'm very motivated to sell this property. I want it to be an aggressive price. I'd like for this to sell in a week or two. I prefer a cash buyer because I don't want to wait around for a loan. These are all red flags that should kind of put your spidey senses on alert and say, what is going on here? This seems too good to be true. Welcome back to the Doug Edrington podcast, where we're going to talk all things real estate to bring value to you, the real estate agent. So today I want to talk about don't take the bait, avoid the real estate scam that is out there. It is prevalent, it is real, and it is personally driving me bananas. There's no doubt about that. There is a scam going across the country that is wrapped around land and lots, and it is literally wasting a lot of people's time, and it is costing them a ton of money. So let me break down exactly what the scam is. Some of you may already know what I'm talking about, but basically someone is coming along saying they're from out of town, reaching out to real estate agents and saying, come sell my property for me. I'm a motivated seller. They want to price it aggressively. An agent goes out and lists the property, generally because it's priced aggressively, generates multiple offers, gets it under contract. And the scary part is since it is an out-of-town seller, what they're actually doing is they're doing all the signatures electronically, the real estate agent is, and then they're getting a wire set up to send right to that account that they want, and it is a scary situation. So I want to break down the details of this. I also want to talk about how it's even happened to us. So it has happened once, the old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And so the second time we learned a really strong lesson from it. Thankfully, in neither situation did the transaction actually go through, but if it happened to us, I know it can happen to you. Now, our local MLS here in Chattanooga it's probably been the number one alert that I keep seeing throughout the year is land scams, land scams, land scams. And so here's the situation, and then we're also going to talk about how you can avoid becoming a victim of this situation. So here's the actual situation. A person reaches out, and we've had them reach out through Zillow. We've had them reach out direct to our website. We've had them pick up the phone and call. We've had them reach out through every scenario. I say we've been involved in 2 of these. We started the process. We caught it. We stopped it. But the attempts that even my team alone has seen has just been, I don't know, it's been nuts. It's been absolutely nuts. So what's happening is they reach out some way or another, and they say, hey, I own the piece of property at 123 XYZ Street, okay? And what they do is they say, I'm interested in selling, and they're getting very savvy. They're actually asking to interview us. We've even had FaceTime calls, like virtual meetings with the customer, or again, the supposed customer, where we're actually going out to the property, seeing the property, putting a value on the home. This is what agents are doing all across the country. They're becoming victim of it. And then they're explaining their services, what they're going to do. These agents are spending money on advertising, professional photography, getting every drone. It's land, so a lot of times there's drone footage that goes along with it. And what they're doing is they're listing these properties. So thanks to services like DocuSign or Dotloop or whatever you may use in the country, because we're in such a techie world, it's become somewhat normal practice to work with someone sight unseen. So these scammers are taking advantage of it. And what they're doing is they're having them list the properties. Now, let me take it a step further. This is what we saw. Anytime we deal with someone that's out of town, we used to only ask for one form of ID. Now I'm recommending at least 2 forms of IDs. There's a couple other tips I'm going to give along the way. But in both particular cases that it went a little bit further than I would have liked to have gone in our brokerage, was they actually were willing to virtual call. Then they sent a copy of an ID, a driver's license, that actually the name matched up with the tax records and the face matched the person that we were speaking to. So literally making fake IDs. And next thing you know, the real estate agent lists the property. Now, if it smells funny, it probably is, right? When the seller starts saying, I'm very motivated to sell this property. I want it to be an aggressive price. I'd like for this to sell in a week or two. I prefer a cash buyer because I don't want to wait around for a loan. These are all red flags that should kind of put your spidey senses on alert and say, what is going on here? This seems too good to be true. And so what they take the next step on is they actually negotiate the offer. Like they will actually counter back and forth and not just accept the first offer because they've gotten pretty good at this. They're trying to make themselves look like a real seller. Once you get it under contract and you submit the paperwork over to the title company or attorneys, if you're an attorney state, then the title company is doing their job, right? And they're communicating with this supposed seller throughout the entire process. Now, the first time that we got wind of this in a real way, what ended up saving the situation for everybody involved was that the property had a mortgage on it. And within that property, or within the mortgage, turns out the net that the seller was going to receive was less than the mortgage. So what that meant is the seller had to bring, it was only like $1,500 to the closing table. Had to bring $1,500 to the closing table. As soon as we notified the scammer and said, hey, just a heads up, your mortgage is greater than your net, you're going to have to bring some money to sell the property. That's when they ghosted us. And that was like, obviously, that's when we started figuring out like this doesn't seem right, started digging into it. And then you think, okay, all right, anybody can do electronic signatures, but with a title company, you need to have, sometimes you got to have these documents notarized, right? Well, they're faking notaries or they have someone on their side. The last piece of this that is probably the scariest part is when they call that title company to verify wiring instructions and they provide the transaction information to wire the funds at a closing, had they actually received the proceeds from that deal, that money may be gone. And then it's left up to you, the real estate professional, the title company, the buyer, the seller, and the title insurance to just solve this big mess. So I want you to avoid it by tackling a couple steps along the way. So first thing I'm going to challenge you on is always have a virtual call. Always have a virtual call. Now, is a virtual call going to completely uncover what's going on? No, but you're going to start to sense more situations more red flags, I guess you could say, where it's like, what on earth is going here? Why is this person so easygoing? And so, again, it's going to heighten your senses when you get to have that virtual call with that person for a presentation's sake. The second thing I'm going to challenge you on is have at least two forms of IDs. And, a driver's license, a passport, talk with your title attorney or your title company and figure out what are different ways that we can verify that this is the actual seller if you're dealing with them and they're not in person. The other scenario is research the tax records as well. So chances are if they are a property owner, they just own land like dirt. Chances are, not always, but chances are they probably own a home in your marketplace. And so search your county and the surrounding counties of the name of the owner on that tax record to see, do they own another property? Maybe test and verify, do they know that address? Maybe go the distance. I know our company uses a system called Forewarn to be specific. And it's just a great app that will tell you all sorts of information about a phone number just by a reverse phone number lookup. In both cases that we experienced, those phone numbers did not match up. So that was another red flag that we were able to catch. So again, just go the distance in verifying. Now, once you actually have verified some IDs and you're starting to feel good about it, I would get ahead of the game. Even if you think it's real, I would get ahead of the game and I would go ahead and contact your title company and say, hey, when we go to close, this person is out of town, and the title company should help you find and verify the notary that person is going to use in whatever state they claim to be in or are actually in. Most of these scammers are not going to cooperate with that. I don't think they would at all. They're going to want to use their own notary. They're going to say, no, I've got a notary. I can take care of that. But if the title company is the person who chooses the notary, that's going to be another great scenario. The title company can also take it a step further and call the bank and verify. Let them know, hey, we've just dealt with some scams. We want to verify this account has not been just recently opened. Is there anything you can do to make sure that we're not dealing with the scammer? Banks will greatly appreciate it. Just a little bit of research I did here. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. I guess this is where you make the complaint if you run into this, because I can tell you from personal experience, the local authorities don't know what to do with it. So I would research and say, okay, how do I make this complaint? The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center says that last year, almost $400 million was lost due to this scam. That's a significant amount of money. I tried to dig as deep as I could online just to figure out who is actually responsible. Who holds the burden of whose fault is this in the event that this actually goes through and goes to closing? And it seems like it is in the court's hands. It's going to be a combination of the real estate professional, the title company, the title insurance, the policy holder in that sense. It's going to be a combination of a fight. It's not going to be easy. A little bit more digging. I went further down into a Reddit article. I'm not necessarily a big Reddit fan, but I was digging really deep to try to find something. And there's a person on here that claimed that they were victim to this and actually closed on it. This was an actual buyer that bought the property, but they didn't buy it from the seller. They were scammed. And so they said that their title insurance company did cover about 90% of their cost. So they took a 10% hit. That's an expensive hit to go through an exercise that you don't actually own. Next question is if the buyer did everything they were supposed to do, did they buy the property? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, it was a fraudulent activity that you just ended up participating in. So do not think that if you found yourself in this situation as a buyer, that you still get to buy the property, because the seller didn't sell the property. Now, the first time that we ran through this, what we ran into was when we realized that we were dealing with a scammer, we actually researched, found the real owner, and said, hey, we actually have an offer on your property. Do you want to sell it? I got excited. I thought we were actually going to sell the property, but the seller was not interested in making a move, but they were definitely intrigued to find out all the information we shared with them. So there's definitely a lot going on here. At the end of the day, if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good. So I just want to challenge you, especially for newer agents, because if an experienced team like mine fell victim to this, I'm sure a new agent is probably really excited to get that listing. And there's nothing worse than being brand new, probably scrapping for a little bit of money. You're trying to get things up and running. You get excited about a situation and you assume the best in the situation. And I'm a fan out of always assume the best in people. But this is a scenario that you should definitely be very aware of, the scenario that could go down. So get your broker involved. Reach out to the title company. Ask lots and lots and lots of questions, because a seller who's seriously motivated in selling their property is probably not going to give you a hard time in doing so. But what we have found is that it just doesn't always work out that way. So I just want to challenge you, don't be a scenario. Don't be that victim. Don't be that victim. So you think, why is this a scam? Like, why is this even happening? And it's just the world that we live in, unfortunately. Real estate is one of the largest financial transactions that happen every single day, in and out. And so if there's a way to prey on a large transaction, there is going to be a scam artist out there that's going to do it. So just be super careful. I hope this brings you some value. I hope you don't find yourself in this scam situation. If you have been in this situation before, please let me know. Comment below. Shoot me an email, Doug@JDouglasProperties. I'd like to enlighten all of our world on other ways that we can get ahead of this, or we can make sure that nobody falls victim to this situation, because our consumers don't deserve it, and neither do you. Thank you for listening to the Doug Edrington podcast. Make sure you stay tuned for the next one coming soon.